This week, we are welcoming Hammad Hassan from the Toronto Business Development Centre, and we're talking about truck drivers and development. Join us. Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast is next.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Hammad, welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Hello.
Can you say a couple of words about yourself? Who are you and who are you representing?
With pleasure, guys. So my name is Hammad Hassan. I work with Toronto Business Development Centre as a program manager. So brief introduction, Toronto Business Development Centre, it's a non-for-profit business incubator and been supporting new businesses to scale and establish in Canada for over 30 years. TBDC is managing several programs, and the one that I'm managing is called Explore Trucking Careers, and that's the reason we are together to have more conversation with this program, because I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and people and trucking company out there, they don't know much about this program.
Oh, no, I was going to say it's new to us already.
And we're going to try to spread the word.
Yeah.
So this
Excellent.
program currently, so I just want our listeners and viewers to know that this is something brand new. It is in Ontario only, but other jurisdictions could copy the idea. So if you're an American or a Canadian outside of Ontario, you should be listening up. Right? So, Hammad, introduce the program. What is Explore Trucking as a career?
So, guys, Explore Trucking Careers. I'm going to say it's a fast track initiative to support Ontario's economy. Now, let's talk about trucking. Trucking is one of the main pillars of economy. And then why this program came into existence. So there was a lot of chat between trucking companies and the stakeholders, the driver shortage, which is according to the recent article that I was reading, is going to get chronic moving forward. So in order to tackle that problem, this program came into existence. Now, how TBDC, got an opportunity to run this program. TBDC, did a project in the past with a few trucking companies and got a chance to collaborate with Ontario Trucking Association. And then that's how we got nominated to run this program and got selected. One of the main reasons that they want an unbiased body to run this program, because there was a lot of, I'm going to say, issue of being a biased approach. So they wanted an unbiased body to administer the program, so all the trucking companies can get equal service and fat ground to play with. Now, in a nutshell, what program does is we provide trucking companies with financial assistance in order to train and retrain new and existing drivers. So, for example, I'm running a company and I have needs. I need to hire drivers. But I interviewed 20 drivers. I'm looking to hire 5. Out of 20, I like only 3. Now, 2 drivers out of those 5 are missing a part of skill. For example, they're not good at backing, or they don't know how to cross border, but they're capable to cross border. That's where our program comes in and provides financial assistance to these trucking companies to render this training to those folks so they can land a job. So we don't make drivers. We don't do melt. We train and retrain drivers. And other example is Chris has a company running 20 trucks. And then what happened? Chris got a new contract to haul bulk liquid. Now, Chris has drivers, but all they know is to run dry van. Now, Chris needs to train them in order to haul bulk. Now, our program is going to come in and help Chris to retrain those drivers to gain the skill so they can hit the ground running. So this is in a nutshell. We will talk in more detail, when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So now you said one thing that I wanted to make sure I heard correctly. This applies to unlicensed drivers and licensed drivers, or just those that already have a CDL, commercial driver's license?
Really, really good question, Chris. Yes. So let's talk about the eligibility criteria. One of the eligibility criteria is to have your AZ or DZ license prior to joining this program.
Okay,
As
and
I said,
sorry, just
like,
for everywhere else in the world, that's an AZ is a class one, and the terminology in Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
um, and DZ is a straight truck. So sorry, Hammad, please.
no problem. The program, let's get back to the eligibility. So there is a requirement on both ends, employer and employees. So this is a provincial funding. So jurisdiction is entire Ontario. So if the trucking company is domiciled within Ontario, can participate in this program. Now, eligibility criteria in terms of trainees, participants, employees. Uh, this program is just for company drivers. When I say company drivers, people on payroll, not
Mm-hmm.
for owner operators. Uh, they must be Canadian citizen, or we are also working with permanent residency holders and uh, uh, refugees that recently came from Ukraine. So if you have traveled under Kuwait, you can participate in this program. Uh, must be 21 and over, and again, must be domiciled in Ontario. These are the few requirements that we look for in order to register employers and employees. Now, as a gatekeeper, this is my responsibility to ensure that the compliance is 100%. For which we have different methods to ensure that all the employers and trucking companies out there, they're following the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now we've been running this program. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead. I know you were trying to ask me a
Well,
question.
no, I was just going to regurgitate, reiterate, whatever the correct word is. You got to be 21. You've got to have
Yes.
your tractor trailer license already, and
Yes.
you're going to be on payroll. Those are,
Yes.
and you got to be Canadian or permanent resident, or there's something special for those who came from the Ukraine because of the crap that's
Correct.
happening over there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But so good.
Yes.
I like the exception for the Ukrainians. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainian. I just feel awful sorry. But and then from an employer, and oh, sorry, you have to be from Ontario. An employer has to
Correct.
be from Ontario, obviously paying drivers on payroll. What else would an employer do, or in order to qualify?
In order to qualify, yes. So now we collaborate with employers on three different levels. There are certain employers, they have means like they're hiring people, and they have training means as well, and they have their own assets. So in this scenario, what we do, we collaborate with them. They're using their own resources. Once the training is rendered, uh, once the people are employed, we reimburse them money. Now, before I move forward, let me talk about the funding, like the money that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
because
we're not interested in the money. Heck,
Yeah, everybody will do this for free.
you're
so this is
Chris
probably
and
the
Don
most.
you're the first ones.
This is probably the most important part of the conversation. As an employer, what's in it for me?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly, exactly. So there are two parts of training that we have. There's light touch and there's full service. So the max funding is $4,000 per driver. Now, in order to qualify for the max funding, the training needs to be 2 weeks and over. So once you hit the 2 week mark, it's an automatic. You get 4,000 for that driver. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if your training is less than 2 weeks, but more than a week, we call it light touch. And for that, the funding amount is $2,000 per driver. that employers can apply for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so let's get back to the second tier. So this is the first
Mm-hmm.
one. Trucking companies, they have their own recruitment and training means. Now, second tier is trucking companies with means, but they don't have means to train people, and they have either a third party or they're looking to collaborate with a training body who can do the training on their behalf. What
Mm-hmm.
happens in that scenario? We actually sit down with those folks. We tell them, because this is the second year we're running this program with our information that we have collected. You're in this area, and these schools are amazing, and they have phenomenal reputation. They do everything by the book. They are meeting the standard. So we try to connect the trucking company with the training school and become more like a middle body to make things happen. Now, the training is being delivered by the school. What happens? The employer, well, first, once they identify people, they invest on that people. They get trained, come back, get employed, and that's when I tell them, hey, send me an invoice, and I'll refund you, XYZ amount that you spent in order to train these folks. Now, the third tier is trucking companies. They want to hire driver, but they don't have means to recruit and train. For that, we do have resources that we can share with them in order to recruit and train folks. And then once they're employed after the entire process, we give them reimbursement against their efforts. So these are three types that we are working with recently. And then
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the market, the most, I'm going to say 80% of employers that I'm working with, they do have their own means, but there are smaller companies. Now, I am trying to target smaller companies so I can support them as well, because the big guns, they're all already established. They're doing great work to support economy. Now, it's for personally, I think it's time to strengthen smaller fleets so they
Mm-hmm.
can become the part of the pillar.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to say some of those smaller fleets that don't have the resources that they need and whatnot. So I noticed on the Explore Trucking Careers website down the bottom of one of the pages, you've got a number of affiliates. So, and
Yes.
in there is some large motor carriers that I'm very much well aware of, and they do have some really good programs. So this is a good incentive for them to work through you guys for that hiring practice, the training process, and whatnot, and at the same time reap the benefit of a grant to help compensate the coverage and costs of that training process.
And no, 100%, you're absolutely right on, John. What this program has done to the bigger fleets, like with the help of this program, now their capacity to intake people has been increased by, I'm going to say, at least 50%. Now,
Wow.
just imagine a bigger company trying to hire 50 people at one time,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't able to hire those 50 people because 20 out of 50 were lacking certain skills. So
Mm-hmm.
this program had helped them in order to solve that problem.
Sure.
That's just not it. Like uh, indirectly, we are we are trying to solve the driver shortage problem with this program. This is our second year into the program, and we have seen enormous, I'm going to say, advancement
Mm-hmm.
where the trucking companies are satisfied. Now, when we did our first year, the influx was like crazy. We got over 500 applications.
Wow.
Yes, so to a point where we had to pick and choose. Like, we told all
Right.
the employers, we are overwhelmed. That's an excellent response, but now we're
Mm-hmm.
going to put a stop, because we just want to ensure that we are not setting up wrong expectations,
Mm-hmm.
with the participants. Now, second year, it's the same thing. I'm getting a tremendous amount of response from the previous employers that I'm working with, but personally, I really want to target the smaller and the mid-sized fleets, because
Mm-hmm.
personally, I think it's gonna give them more benefit, and it's
Right.
gonna help the economy in a better way.
Right.
We are not just stopping here. So now, because the part of the program is more like
Hmm.
employer based, the things are a bit streamlined. What
Sure.
we have started doing, Chris and John, what we did last year. So we went to Covenant House. So
Hmm.
Covenant House is a non-for-profit charity organization. They help kids at risk. So we took 20 kiddos, and we took them to one of the employers to educate them about trucking. So we did a
Hmm.
simple flyer. Hey, you want to become a truck driver?
Hmm.
You want to get more information? How to become a truck driver? Sign up. So we got
Yep.
20 kiddos. We took them to one of the employers. That session was phenomenal because
Hmm.
what happened after that session, out of 20 kiddos, five approached right away to the employer because they
Oh
happen to
wow.
have their trucking school and be like,
Yep.
what do we do to get into this
Hmm.
industry? Because people out there, I believe a newcomers,
Hmm.
I'm going to say a new person entering industry
Hmm.
doesn't have ample knowledge
No.
about trucking. They get in, they don't like it, they get out. It's a revolving
Hmm.
door.
Hmm.
Now, what's causing that door to revolve is lack of education.
Sure.
So, my next initiative that we are working on, and we have already partnered with over 20 community organizations, we're going to spread education about trucking. So again, same theme. We're
Hmm.
going to fly. We're going to make a flyer. Hey, you want to become a truck driver? What it takes to become a truck driver? Want to educate yourself? We did a session yesterday with one of the community organization called the 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 community charity group, and we
Hmm.
have every week once we're going to do that session. After collecting these individuals, we are going to do a boot camp where I'm going to invite all the employers from different parts of Ontario. They're going to sit down with the industry experts. They're going to sit down with the drivers. They're going to ask questions. What a typical day looks like in a truck driver life.
Hmm.
How it feels like to be away from home for 5 to 10 days
Right. Right.
before going to a trip, the things that I need to do and the things that I don't need to do. So
Hmm.
all that stuff, personally, I think it's lacking. That's why the door is revolving.
Hmm.
Now, this initiative, it's more like in pilot phase, but I'm really hopeful and I'm really uh, hoping that our this minor effort is going to make some impact on that revolving door, and
Right.
we would be able to solve a problem to an extent.
Hmm.
No
So,
magic, it's just like pure efforts.
right. So I got a question then. So uh, Toronto Business Development Center, which is behind this program, um,
Yes.
you're kind of doing this type of approach with other types of career choices. So you're not new to this overall process. This is not something new you're
Correct.
getting into. The trucking segment is something that is newer to you guys to get into.
That is correct. Yes.
Right.
So
So so
besides
so the
trucking it,
right. Sorry. So the bonus part is all that you've learned in all these other careers and what's made it successful to get people into those areas and careers, you're just taking that concept and that development, bringing it over here to say, well, let's apply that same concept here with trucking.
right on, John. That is correct because we have seen the success
Yeah,
and we want to replicate that success in other domains. So I
sure.
believe in sharing the best practices with
Yeah.
everyone.
So this is great. So I'm sorry, I get ahead here, and I don't want to take away from the trucking aspect here, but if you found somebody that came out and went, well, yeah, trucking's not really for me, and you start to see what some of their interests are, you could be going, well, hang on, what about this career role? Or what about this path that we could put you through and we can work with these employers so you can still help that person, that individual, find a career path that better suits them.
That is correct. Just to give an example, Toronto Business Development Center is running a similar program, but it's geared towards construction. So there, when we do these sessions, we tell people, hey, this is trucking, construction, and then business. What do you want to do? And that's where it solves the problem because you are putting options in front of a person. Now
Yeah.
they can choose, he can make an educated decision based on the knowledge. This is the
Sure.
key where it's going to solve that problem. Oh, I want to become truck driver. Oh, I don't like it. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
something else.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
they do it, they live it, and that's when they make the decision. We want that to happen even before entering the industry. Be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
talk to a driver, talk to director of operations, talk to a dispatcher,
Right.
ask all the questions you have. That's not This is not it. Like what we are doing, we any interested individual who surpasses all these stages, we are going to collaborate with the employers where they're going to go out for a day
Mm-hmm.
to basically see the word from a cab, to
Mm-hmm.
see a real person driving a truck, what problems he or she goes through. So all these little steps are gonna help them out in order to make a better choice. And
Mm-hmm.
we're
Mm-hmm.
hopeful that it's not a part of our program, but our main objective is to solve the problem of the shortage. And
Right.
I believe that this is a really good step towards solving that problem.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. And I like the idea of giving the prospective person the ability to go out and actually see the job.
Mm-hmm.
And you, because if you're going to be there for 6 or 8 hours or 10 hours or 12, if you really want to be a truck driver, or 14, but obviously you're going to have a conversation with the truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
And who better to talk with
Exactly.
than somebody who's actually doing the job over that period of time?
100%. I'm going to give an example because my background, I worked at Challenger Motor Freight as a
Mm-hmm.
recruiter for like about 3 years. I lived it. Like when I was hiring drivers, the first, like, this is a really funny example, but it really fits the scenario. I hired a driver. It was dry van. I told him, hey, yeah, it's a dry van. You've been doing it for how many? 5 years. Amazing. Yes. So it's a dry van, it's a cross border, and blah, blah, blah. He went to orientation, and guess what happened in orientation? He sat there and was like, well, I'm looking for local work. And I was like, uh, the trainer called me, like, uh, the guy's looking for local work. He doesn't want to go to the US. And then I'm like, hey, you didn't tell me before. I told you it's a dry van. You're gonna go to
Mm-hmm.
the US. And he goes
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, well, I heard, but I didn't pay attention. And then I was like, yeah, maybe it's local work. So so that happens. Like people, they hear, they don't listen. So
Mm-hmm.
the like setting up the stage where they know the difference between a local driver and a cross-border driver.
Mm-hmm.
How to cross the border is going to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty excited and working towards that. Uh, Now I was reading an article almost 4 weeks ago. It's by Manitoulin, one of the renowned trucking company.
Mm-hmm.
They quoted that Ontario still lacks 50,000 driver,
Mm-hmm.
and in next few years it's going to get chronic. Now I was talking to another industry expert, and I was like, how it's going to get chronic? Because I do see people, they're getting licenses, they want to become a truck driver, and then he explained me in a really good way that I would like to share. So
Mm-hmm.
he works with one of the trucking companies, and he goes like, all the trucking companies have their drivers, so they're not hiring. Now the problem is the majority of their labor force, people driving trucks, they are about to retire.
Mm-hmm.
When they're going to retire, who's going to fill those spots?
Right.
That's the problem that they're dealing with, because
Mm-hmm.
those folks are experienced. They have been doing it for like over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the company with good foresight, what they've started doing, they've started training their staff. They're going to move that to the higher position, and in order to fill their positions,
Yep.
they're going to move things around, and that's how they are hoping that they will be able to cope with the problem. But now the intake right away, it's not possible for them to fill those positions in an
Mhm.
overnight. It's
Right.
going to be a
Right.
process. Because when driver comes in, once a person gets a license, they don't get a job. What they do, they end up doing something else. Now that's a
Mhm.
waste of driver done. On top of that, lots of youth out there, they're not aware of, you know, selecting schools, in making, and I'm gonna say educated selection of going to a school. There are like
Mhm.
lots of schools out there, and they have different standards out there. Once I've decided to become a truck driver, I'm young, I'm new. I want to be like, okay, I'll go to a school right across the street because I can walk there, and I'll get
Mhm.
my license and I'll get a job. Now, that school could be a fly by night school. They're
Mhm.
not
Yes. Yeah.
teaching you,
Mhm.
what it takes to become a truck driver.
Mhm.
They just want to. Those schools are just ensuring that, oh, you get your you get your Z endorsement. Amazing. Now go find a job,
Yeah.
right?
So you're
No.
working with employers. Are you also working with selective schools and stuff like that to help some of these newcomers, like wanting to get into the industry, to find the right school?
Yeah, so I am on. I'm gonna say I'm doing it really. I'm not putting an emphasis, but what I do, I educate them. Be like, hey, you want to
Mhm.
become a good truck driver? I want you to do your homework. I don't quote any names. I don't want to quote
Right.
any names.
Right.
I want to stay away from that part. Like,
Sure.
but do your research. There is a MELT program, has standards,
Yep.
NCAB. You need to do certain hours. So, now you know what Google is. I want you to go and do your own research.
Mhm.
And that's helping them. Now they're going with a different mindset, John.
Right.
They
Right.
know the standards. Like, I'm not here to market any certain school,
Yep.
but
Right.
the schools
Right.
that I'm working with, they're renowned. I have faith in their ability,
Yep.
but again, the people that I'm dealing with, they're from different
Sure.
areas, and
Sure.
all these areas have like amazing schools. Every area has an amazing school. So I
Mhm.
tell them to do the research and then spend their money. Don't try to save money because you're going to be driving uh, like a 10-ton machine, which is not going to stop. Like, the
Right.
liability is sky high. The
Mhm.
safety situation these days, it's not improving. So, for the sake of your family, for the sake of others,
Mhm.
families, make sure that you're going to the right school and you're
Yes.
getting the right education. You're getting the right, you know, uh, education to deal with any potential problem, which is
Mhm.
going to
Yeah.
keep you safe and keep other people safe on the road.
Yeah.
Like,
And
there are like so many incidents that you guys know,
Mhm.
where like people end up losing their lives, and nothing no like all the money of the world cannot replicate a life.
yeah,
Like, this
Right.
is how I look at it. So that's why I tell them, take your time, do your research, and go to a better school which is going to equip you with proper tools to deal with any given situation. And
yeah,
these small initiatives that I'm taking, it's not a part of my program, but what I have seen and observed as a Canadian citizen, this is what I feel. That's my
Mhm.
responsibility to actually educate these young fellas to
Mhm.
ensure that they're safe and they're making the right choice.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And
Yep.
I think honestly that is a great spot to wrap up the interview. Your contact info is in the show notes down below. And check out the website exploretruckingcareers.com. That is down in the show notes down below.
Mhm.
Hamid, thank you very much. Last word. Did
Yep.
we So employers should reach out
Yes.
and possible drivers should reach out. Anything else?
Good question, Chris. So employers, my details are going to be, you're going to find my details at the bottom, my
Mhm.
email and phone number. So because the program is more employer based, the funding goes to the employer. So I
Mhm.
would request any interested employer to reach out to me via phone or email, and I'll be in touch with them right away.
Cool.
Perfect. And as we
Awesome.
said, your or in the show notes down below, we have Hammad's contact info. Thanks, Hammad. Appreciate your insights. Thank you for sticking around today. And John and I also appreciate you, our viewers and listeners, very much. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, and please leave us a comment. Love to reply to that. John and I do all the replies ourselves. That's it for this week. Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. We are out of here.